Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. Today I have CoinGuru with me. Hey Ben, how you doing?
Thanks for having me on, Moose. I actually like the name, pretty catchy. Let loose with Moose.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm super excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
Yeah, been in the space for like almost 7 years now, so I'm a wealth of knowledge when it comes to a whole bunch of stuff. So ready to answer your questions.
Awesome. Then let's get started with your
Of course.
introduction and of course your crypto origin story.
All right. So I'm not your typical, I mean, I guess maybe nowadays I'm your typical crypto guy. College dropout, kind of went the degenerate side, lost a bunch of money on leverage. Actually, it all started back in 2012 when I was playing World of Warcraft. And the funny thing about World of Warcraft is some of the best on-chain traders I know, they all played WoW slash RuneScape as a kid. So I was playing WoW with a kid. He was from Detroit. His mom had a serious drug issue and he was really, really poor. And he was just telling me nonstop to buy Bitcoin over and over and over again in 2012. And I think the price of Bitcoin was like maybe $300 or $600 back then. Obviously, I didn't listen because I was too busy raiding and PvPing in Warsaw Gulch to actually take the time and buy. And it was a pretty complex process back then. So I just ignored it. And then 2017 rolls around, the tail end of 2017, sometime at the end of November. And I haven't heard from this kid in like maybe 3 or 4 years. And he hits me up out of the blue on Discord and he's like, yo, buy Bitcoin. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you. And he goes, it's going to like, 10, 20, $30,000. And I think the price of Bitcoin is like 3 or 4,000. So I said, all right, I'm going to take a look into it. And I wound up downloading a Coinbase account. And then I bought what pretty much was everybody's first buy in 2017, which was Litecoin, because it was like the cheaper, faster Bitcoin. It was the silver Bitcoin, right? The silver of Bitcoin. So I ripped a bunch of Litecoin on Coinbase. Never heard from that kid, by the way, ever again. I think he made like millions and millions and millions, and then just like fucked off, and now is somewhere on a yacht, some island. But bought a bunch of Litecoin on Coinbase. Then I proceeded to read a bunch of bullish articles about Justin Sun and TRX. I thought he literally was like the next prodigy. He was going to be the president of the world. So I made a Binance account, rotated all my Litecoin around 200 into TRX around like 0.002 cents. I think I had $3,000 in crypto by then. And then TRX went absolutely crazy after the John McAfee tweet when he was doing Coin of the Day. I don't know if you remember that back in the day. So he tweeted TRX. I turned 3K into $33,000 and then proceeded to lose it all over at BitMEX over the next 3 years to literally zero. Then wish-wash traded my money around until about July or June of 2020, which was DeFi summer. Then opened up a leverage long on BitMEX with the remainder of my funds. Maybe not the remainder, probably like 80% of them. And I wound up moving to Binance at that point from BitMEX. And Bitcoin went from 9K to 11.6 in a single like candle. I don't know if you remember that either, but
How do you remember it so specifically?
I don't know. Just because it's just something that was like a major wow factor to me, because I actually forgot that I was 100x long on the remainder of my funds on BitMEX. I completely forgot. And then I wound up checking the price at like $12,000. And I was just going through old accounts to see like what money I had left. And I logged into BitMEX and I was up like 6 figs on this position because I was 100x from the bottom. If you like go back and look at the price action between then, Bitcoin pretty much was consolidating a super tight range between like 9 and 9.3K. There was like 0.1, 0.2% intraday moves. So for me, it was like pretty easy not to get liquidated because Bitcoin wasn't volatile at all. And if you like caught the bottom, it was literally up only since then. And I logged into BitMEX. I was like, shit, man, I actually have some money now. So ran up on leverage then, rotated it all to cake/BSC season. And then that's where I created my fortune. And the rest is history.
Nice, nice. Well, let me just process that. There was a lot of things you mentioned at one go.
Yeah, sorry.
So wow, you first heard of this in 2012 and got in 2017, right? So now it's been 7 years now. Bought Litecoin, then TRX, made a shit ton longing Bitcoin and forgot about it on BitMEX, and then
Yep.
played around on BSC season in, I think that's what, 2020,
Yeah, it was.
2019.
Yeah, Bitcoin hit all-time high in December 2020, I think, and then January/February was when BNB went on its crazy run, and then BSC just completely took off.
Awesome. And then you've been trading meme coins, shit coins since then.
Yeah, pretty much nonstop. I entirely gave up leverage. I don't see a benefit in it anymore because if I'm gonna trade leverage, I'm gonna have to trade like massive size, and I honestly don't want to deposit a lot of money into a SEX. One, because I'm not comfortable, and two, it doesn't give me as much euphoria as hitting like 100x on like a 60k market cap coin. That just gives me a little bit more dopamine than what I'm used to because I'm pretty much dopamine depleted after all these years in crypto.
Man, that is insane, man. Yeah, I mean, since you mentioned that you've been kind of trading on and off, right? Like short to medium term plays. Just curious, do you hold any long term bags at all?
Yeah, so I kept saying this a lot, like over the last year or two, that you don't really want to make like your core concentrated bet until Bitcoin, like after the Bitcoin's new all-time high. But I kind of shifted from that mindset a little bit. I pretty much only have one like really big long-term bag, and it's like a 1 to 2 year horizon where 75% of my portfolio in, and that's Tau. And I think you've probably heard about all the ruckus going on with Tau on crypto Twitter and in group chats and stuff like that. It's like the Bitcoin of AI. It's going to $10,000 a coin. So yeah, Tau is probably my definitely my concentrated bet. Then I hold a bunch of little stuff like I hold Arbitrum, I hold some smaller caps, I hold Bitcoin, I hold ETH, I hold oh god, what else do I hold? I hold Kanto, I hold OP. Yeah, that's it. Then recently I've done a bunch of like angel investing and seed deals for some longer term stuff just because I haven't had the opportunity to ever do that. And I figured if I'm gonna be here for another 2 years, I might as well invest in some promising founders for the future.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, nice. And I think I saw your tweet on having a 75% position and thinking it's not large enough.
Yeah, I don't know why. I sold the Smurf Cat top kind of back when like the Joe slash Hippo slash SPX slash Smurf Cap era happened a few months ago, and then I rotated it into Tau between 80 and 100, and then I started averaging up between 200, and I have a lot of Tau, like enough where if it goes to 10,000, I should do really really well for myself. But I still feel like I don't have enough because everybody in my group chat has a lot more Tau than me, and it makes me feel a little bit sad.
Awesome. Right, I know we've been talking a lot on trading such narrative coins and all, right? But curious to hear what's your framework on narrative plays, right? How do you find them? How do you screen through them and decide which ones are going into your portfolio?
The narratives it's such an interesting topic because there's so much that goes into like what actually sparks a narrative. And the thing about the last I personally think that the bull market started when Pepe went to 1.6 billion. I think that's what really ignited the space, and obviously like the
Mm-hmm.
BTC ETF announcement, that was like kind of the start. But on chain really started during the Pepe craze, and narratives have been really really hit or miss. They've been very fast rotations. Usually narratives don't last longer than 2 to 4 weeks, and if you believe that they are going to last longer than that, likely at the end of the day you are left holding the bag. So there's definitely a few different things that go into like what creates a narrative, how long a narrative lasts, like top signals, like when a narrative actually starts. So I think that the first thing to look at for a narrative is like, does it make sense? Like, for example, did the Solana meme coin narratives, did those make sense, right? There was like, I'd say there was probably like the narrative on Solana was meme coins, right? It's, it wasn't DeFi summer, it was meme coins. So if you're taking that like the meme coin narrative as a whole and putting on Solana, that made sense. And why did it make sense, right? You had the Jito stimmy, you had the Jupe stimmy, you had people getting tired of getting tax farmed on ETH, you had people getting tired of paying $30 to $50 a swap on Ethereum. Then Solana comes around, and then you have like Bonkbot, you have Unibot, you have Jupe, where it's just like this really good infrastructure that makes it a lot better and easier for people to execute trades. You can actually flip coins for like 10-20% moves, so price action is generally cleaner because it's easier to like market make these coins. So the whole narrative behind meme coins and Solana was pretty obvious in hindsight. It all started with Myro, which was like the founder's dog of Solana or something like that. So it had something to do with Solana, and like obviously Dogecoins or dog coins in general are always kind of like the flavor on every single chain. So from like a narrative perspective, that was like a pretty obvious first bet. Did I catch it? A little bit of it. Did I make as much money as I wanted to? No, because I was kind of a Solana hater throughout the bear market. I just always compared it to a bunch of kids trading snacks for lunch money in high school. So yeah, so obviously it's kind of like, is what's going on in the ecosystem is one. It's, when you have all these narratives that pop up on different chains, like for example, you had the AVAX like meme coin crave or like crave, right? And a lot of that came from the AVAX ecosystem fund where they were allocating, I think it was $100 million to meme coins, right? So people kind of like switched on their AVAX gambling mindset and bridged over to AVAX, and then there was like a 1 to 2 week phase, right? So then you had like base meme coins, right? A lot of that came from Farcaster. Farcaster was, having a lot of user growth. It there was a lot of airdrops. It wasn't something like Friend Tech where you had to pay a 10% fee both ways, and it was pretty minus EV for a lot of market participants. So then you had the base thing, right? Because you had Farcaster that was kind of take it off. So there's always one thing in the ecosystem that like sparks a general narrative as a whole. And then when it comes to like individual narratives, like for example, like you had the Drake narrative on Solana, right? Which was like Anita Max win. And obviously that coin is down only, but it was a good 3-4 weeks of pumps. And that was, in hindsight, it was relatively easy. And why was that, right? You first of all, you have like the biggest star in the world, saying Anita Max win. And a lot of these coins that have these strong narratives that go up really high are usually somewhat like pinned to some IRL narrative, right? You had GME, which was obviously like the GameStop stuff that went up a bunch. You had Anita Max win. You had Dog with Hat, which wasn't really pinned to anything IRL. It was just kind of a narrative within itself. And I actually made a little post on that on my Twitter on kind of how that started. But I think a lot of that had to do with CT shills versus like the actual narrative within itself and how good of a meme it was. But oh god, I could talk about this for another 30 minutes. Let me know if I'm going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, I think a few points you mentioned, right? Like a lot of them were saying like in hindsight, but when we were at that point, like in that moment in time, like, how do you think whether this narrative is gonna take off or not?
So if I'm looking at something that's going to have longevity, the funny thing is a lot of it actually comes down to the developers of these meme coins because there are a lot of good meme coins with great narratives and like great tickers and great memes, but they just suck. I don't think that people know what it takes to actually create a really good meme coin. You need to have a team, you need to have a market maker, you need to be buying out whale supplies, you need to be cornering supplies, you need to be sniping your own launches, then burning supply on the side. There's like this whole equation that actually makes a meme coin successful. So a lot of it comes down to the dev, but like what actually in like my eyes, if I can like identify a narrative, I know it's gonna stick. It's like, okay, I think one of something that a lot of people underestimate is Twitter hashtags. It might sound stupid, like at face value, but it's honestly like pretty huge. If you're going on Twitter and you're not seeing your coin being posted about every 30 seconds by a bunch of small fish, right? Where it's people that don't necessarily have a lot of followers. They don't have a lot of mutuals. It's just like a bunch of accounts you've never seen before. And why is that bullish? Because those are like your core holders, right? Those are the people that are going to, one, put in all the work for their bags, unlike somebody who's a pretty big influencer. They're just going to like tweet about it and ride the hype, right? Versus you have all these little fish who are putting like 5, 10, $20 and they have like $100 portfolio and they're going to go to battle for this coin. They're going to tweet about it every single day. They're going to go into every public chat. They're going to shill about it like their life depends on it. So if you have a bunch of these little fish and all these smaller accounts just like tweeting every single day, eventually that's going to catch eyes of like some of these larger accounts, and then like kind of the whole domino effect happens. So Twitter shills is definitely one for kind of like identifying like the strength of the narrative. Then price action and volume as well is huge. Volume is probably one of like the bigger ones that if you like really need consistent volume on these meme coins. And you'll see that a lot with these stronger narratives. Like, if you have a high volume coin, technical analysis on meme coins, which people say, oh, TA doesn't work, first of all, and TA doesn't work on meme coins. I'm telling you right now, for whoever's going to want to listen to this podcast, like TA on meme coins is 10 times better than, opening up TradingView and like doing TA on a Binance Sex perp coin. So it's like with a lot of volume, there's a lot of you can do TA. So it's like pretty easy to find like support levels. And then then when you're looking at these support levels after pullbacks, right, you're looking at like, one, is there new holders coming in? Two, is distribution getting better? Three, are whales capitulating and are there new buyers to back it up, right? Then you look at like Telegram metrics. You look at, are there a bunch of new Telegram people joining the chat? And then you look at like people spamming like slash commands, right? Is it the same 3 people spamming slash commands, or is it 100 people spamming slash commands? Then you look at like the Chatter Shield raid bot, right? How fast are raids being complete? Like how strong is the community? Is there like where they post, hey, raid this tweet and it takes 10 minutes to complete all the criteria? Or
Mm-hmm.
is it something that gets completed in like less than 30 seconds, right? So it's a few kind of like little tricks to identify like how long a narrative is going to last and like how much juice it actually has.
Awesome. When you were going off on that end, I was just thinking, how ridiculous this would have sound to someone who is not into shitcoins.
Oh yeah, if I was like walking to the local mall with like a megaphone or something, I was like, check distribution, check Twitter cash tags. They'd be all looking at me and like thinking I'm some serial killer or something.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I think that's really good points you mentioned there, right? Really relevant in my opinion. I have seen certain pullbacks using Fibs actually work quite well for meme coins
Yep.
with really strong trends, right? So yeah, totally agree there. And the next one then I would think about is, once we've entered the certain position, right? How do you time your rotations, right? You mentioned rolling. What was it? What did you mention earlier? There was a coin that you rotated your profits into Tau, right?
Oh yeah, Smurf to Tau, exactly.
Yeah, Smurf Cat, right? So like, how do you time rotations? When do we start to look at taking profits or scaling out and or entirely shifting it into another position?
So let's just take Solana for example again, because I think that's probably like the most relevant example. One, you have to look at leaders. What are leaders doing? There's always that one meme coin on a chain that kind of sparks the fire, then creates a bunch of other little meme coins that follow. Like that meme coin's a leader, right? So you have to look at market cap resistances. I've done a thread on this. You may have read my ultimate meme coin thread, and I talk about market caps a lot and kind of like where coins usually top out, right? It's you have from market cap resistance, you have like 3 to 500K, you have 1 million, you have 3 million. After it breaks above 3 million, you have 10 million. If it breaks above 10 and holds 10, you're usually looking for 30 to 40 million. If it breaks above 40 million and holds 40 million, you're usually looking for 100 to 200 million, right? So if your leader of that ecosystem is breaking above that $40 million market cap, like kind of like WIF did or like Myro did, and it's going to the $1 to $200 million mark, if not higher, that opens up the doors for a lot of these other coins to start going to like, 3, 4, 5 million, all the way up to like 30, 40 million, right? So then when that starts to happen, it's time to like look at the price action of majors. And a lot of it is due like, one, if it's selling off aggressively, like how shallow are these dips? Are these dips getting bought up immediately on majors, or are they making like these kind of like weak lower highs? Is volume dying on majors and rotating into other coins? So a lot of it is looking at the leader and determining if the leader is topped. And you can do that, one, by TA, two, by volume, three, by looking at holder metrics, right? Are you seeing like some kind of like stagnation within holder metrics? And you're looking at like, is it like slowly bleeding off, right? And then also it's like the Jupe narrative. There was a lot of people talking about like, hey, is Jupe going to be the top for the Solana ecosystem? Obviously it was, because there was like millions and millions and millions of dollars extracted out of the Solana ecosystem. And then the Sol ecosystem kind of went down only since then. Did WIF go down only? For temporarily, but like new launches aren't doing as well. So for like rotations for me, to like when to actually get out of a coin, like I'm usually just looking at market cap resistances and just like how often it's being talked about, because it's really easy, especially with when a lot of people have pea brains and their attention spans like the size of a peanut, for people to just like tweet about a coin and then never tweet about it again. Like you want those people consistently tweeting about the like that coin over and over again. And then when those people start to lose interest, when like some of the bigger accounts start to lose interest, some of like the core initial tweeters that kind of like help like run up the coin, when they start losing interest, then you start seeing volume start to taper off, you start seeing holder metrics start to go down, you start seeing a bunch of garbage, like the most crazy stupid narratives ever, like just stuff that doesn't make sense anymore, which most meme coins make sense. Then it's probably time to start scaling out of that ecosystem and start looking for other plays.
Got it, got it. And you mentioned like looking at the first mover or the hottest leader, right? So does that
Uh-huh.
mean you usually not buying into the hottest one and you say you kind of use that as a gauge? Or let's say if we are in the hottest meme coin, then what should we use as the measurement then?
Well, people, like the sayings, like if you have a core play, then you have a beta play. You never really want to chase beta, right? You're likely going to have better multiples on size if you chase the leader. And when beta plays start coming out around that leader, that usually sends the leader higher. So for me, it honestly depends how early I get into the leader. I'm not the thing is it's I mean right now my risk tolerance might be a little bit higher than what it was a few months ago, but especially on like an unfamiliar ecosystem, it's really hard to chuck size into the leader, right? Especially one, if you don't have a lot of size, or two, the coin has already pumped so much that you're kind of scared to chase. So one, if you want to chase the leader, it's probably better to chase on size if one, you have the capital or you actually have like that risk tolerance, or and if you have like a smaller portfolio, it's definitely better to gamble on like betas or just other coins within the ecosystem, because if whiff, right, whiff went to 50 million, and or like it's a 50 million, right, I have $10,000. Do I put $10,000 into whiff and then I hit like a 6x? Okay, I made like $60,000. Or do I take $10,000 and I ape $100 into all these different meme coins, and likely at some point I am going to hit that like 200 300x, which I think we saw a lot during like the Solana meme coin craze. And it just honestly comes down to your risk tolerance and like how high you actually see the coin going.
Got it, got it. Right, and then with so many of such coins going on, right, so many trending narratives, how do you keep up with so much information flowing around, right? And like, what's your best source of information?
Oh my God. I don't have anxiety. I've had anxiety once in my life, and it was at a roulette table when I was at a casino, and I don't know why. It was probably because I had too much to drink that night. But 2 weeks ago, I had like a bit of anxiety, like heavy chested, and it was just because I was processing so much information on a daily basis that I honestly couldn't take anymore. Between the like every narrative, all the chains, all the group chats, like business calls, just keeping up with like business partnerships. There was just so much going on, and it's so freaking hard to process the information. But that's where it comes down to like kind of finding your niche, right? Like what exactly are you good at? Because there's perp traders, there's airdrop farmers, there's NFT traders, there's like market makers, right? Then you have sibblers, then you have meme coin traders, and then there's 17 million different sectors in the crypto space that are pretty much at some point, no matter what, there's going to be one sector or one coin within that sector that's doing really, really well. And then you're going to look at that coin and be like, wow, how did I miss that? But in reality, the sector
Mm-hmm.
that you're good at, that niche that like your niche, you're probably going to do better there. So for me, it's really just sticking to what I know. And then I think also having ADHD helps me a lot because I'm kind of scatterbrained. I'm all over the place. If you couldn't tell from this interview, I just talk about 17 different things in a single sentence. That's just what my ADHD does. So surprisingly, that somehow helps. My high school teachers always told me that was going to be my downfall, but in crypto, it's actually a competitive edge. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, it's hard to absorb all this information. But I think if you just kind of tidy up your focus, and you focus on one thing in the space instead of trying to capture and hit every narrative and every sector in the space, you'll probably have a good chance of outperforming this cycle.
Got it, got it. So like, where do you usually source for information? Like, do you just scroll Twitter or like, are you watching new pairs launching or some private groups?
Yeah. So I say this a lot, and I tell like I work for like Wealth Group, and I'm in there their meme coin sector pretty much all the time. And what I tell these guys is that you want to do your best to one, network, and two, kind of create like a group of people that have like the same vision as you and like your interests are aligned. And creating a group chat is really, really awesome, especially if you hit people from kind of like every sector, and then every people, if you have 10 people, kind of everybody has like a different value add. And that's a huge one because it's a good way to get a bunch of like concentrated information about everything that's going on in the space without having to look in 17 million different places. So that's huge. So definitely having a group chat is really awesome with like your core friends. And there's nothing better than making a bunch of money with like your core homies who you just went through 2 years of hell with. And if I'm finding new pairs, like I'm in a group and we have a bunch of custom bots. And these bots are like new deployment pairs, 404 pairs, like trending coins. Like there's coins that identify pattern. There's like 10 different bots that fire off like 50 to 100 coins a day, and those coins usually come out pretty good. They're custom coded by a friend of mine, so that's one as well. And then another one is just looking at Dex Screener, which is super, super undervalued. There was a poll I think that Kobe did not too long ago. I forget who it was. It was like, where do you get your source of information from? Like, where do you find your new coins? And I think like 60 to 70% of the poll said Twitter, and people just want to be spoon-fed stuff. And there was actually a section that said Dex Screener, and it was like 7 to 9%. And there's like a lot of hidden alpha in there. It's like, for example, there's this coin called NMT. They called it the Chinese Tao. It's the new meme. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's nothing much going on Binance Smart Chain right now, right? So if you were to go to Dex Screener, you were to pull up, the 5-minute time frame with the most amount of volume on BSC, you could have found that coin at 10-20 cents. Now it's like $3.50, right? So a lot of it is going to these new ecosystems, like going to the like doing a custom Dex Screener filter, doing 5 minutes, doing by like sort by market cap, sort by volume, and sort by LP, and you can find a lot of bangers that way. That's super underrated. Then like Twitter is obviously a really good flow of information. Make sure that you have Twitter lists, and you're like kind of curating these Twitter lists and making it so it's actually like a bunch of good hitters, so you don't lose too much information. Twitter's, for me, it's more of an idea to kind of like help like validate my trade ideas, even though I'm like pretty independent when it comes to like my own trading ideas. But hey, I've entered this trade. Now I'm going to look for a little bit more information, look at people doing threads, and like, one, do I respect this trader and he's shilling my bag? Sure. Okay, so that kind of helps validate my trading idea. But yeah, those are like the three main ways that I like find coins, and then I hold coins for a longer period of time.
Awesome, got it. And of course, I see that you're a lead dev at Metadrop, right?
Yes.
You want to share a bit on that end as well?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Metadrop. So I was hired as the lead biz dev back in the beginning of October, and
Thank
I
you
don't
for the
know.
correction, by the way.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a dev. Trust me, I can barely figure out a computer. I'm not even kidding about that. I can't convert anything for like a PNG, but I can read Etherscan like it's Bible. So yeah, I was hired back in October. Metadrop initially launched as an NFT curated launch platform back in 2020/2021. Like Wasi's, Webiverse, Anata, they all launched through there. And then NFTs went through the bear market, and a good team pivots, right? Because if something's not working, you need to pivot to doing something different. So Metadrop pivoted to what we call just like a super basic coin launcher. So that was our product one. And the CEO, Cop, hit me up, who's also been a friend for like 3 or 4 years now. And he's like, hey, we have this new product. Do you want to work for us? I think you'd be perfect. Like, all right, what is it? He goes, you can launch any type of coin, any meme coin in less than 30 seconds. I go, dude, that's perfect for me. My network is all meme coins. I have a Twitter following that is specifically catered around on-chain and meme coins. And I am like your perfect candidate for testing the product because I know what goes into making a meme coin successful. So I got hired in October, and we released our product one on mainnet. We have done around 680 launches through Metadrop in October. So like 5 months, we've done 680 launches. And our first product was a coin launcher. You could log onto our website. You could have absolutely no developer skills whatsoever, and you could create a meme coin in less than 30 seconds. So we've ramped up that product a bunch. We've added a bunch of new features. We recently introduced something called the fair launch pools, which is a really interesting concept. And I think whoever winds up listening to it is going to like this concept, because I think the way that the space is going, I know Kobe's working on a project like this. A lot of these coins are these meme coins are insider coins. Two, they're pre-sales that require you to have a following, or three, these coins are like sniped to shit by banana gun snipers, and you're just getting
Mm-hmm.
wrecked by people with like 3 to 5% of the supply. And ultimately, that's not good for normies. Like when we want normies to come in this cycle, we want normies to stay. We don't want normies to come in, get wrecked by people that have a bigger edge over them and then leave, right? Like we want to see like long-term crypto growth where we kind of have like some kind of like sustainable ecosystem versus like your typical cycle. And the thing about these fair launch pools is that it's this cool little metric that we created. It's kind of like the combination of a pre-sale slash a LBP, which is liquidity bootstrapping protocol. And so what it does is team can create a coin, and then what they do is they create a pool that anybody can contribute to. It doesn't matter how much money you have, who you are, how much Twitter followings you have. It's just a pool that anybody can contribute to, right? So let's say the pool is 50 ETH. Everybody can log on, connect their wallet, and they can contribute X amount of ETH. And there is no hard cap on the pool, so there's overflow, right? So somebody can't come in and then fill the pool 100% of themselves. And the cool thing about this is that everybody who contributes to the pool gets the same price for the token. And the second cool thing about it is all of the ETH that's raised within the pool is used to buy the first buy of the chart, creating a God candle. So all those fair launch pool participants are automatically in profit as soon as the coin launches. And if it goes into overflow after the soft cap is hit, people get refunded a portion of their ETH and their token goes down, and everybody gets tokens on a pro rata basis. So it's really a cool mech because it's fair for everybody. Everybody gets the same price. You're in
Mm-hmm.
profit pretty much immediately after the token launches. And to kind of prevent sell pressure where people can just claim and dump, we've created a 4-hour linear vesting period with a burn, where you have kind of like you have this gamification to it where you have 4 hours, and if you wait the full 4 hours, you get 100% of your tokens. If you claim, after 2 hours, you can claim 50%, you burn the remainder 50%, right? You claim after an hour, you can claim 25, so on and so forth. So it creates this gamification aspect where you have to be like, hey, I can only claim 33% of my tokens, but the token's up enough. Am I going to be happy with these gains? Or do I want to wait for the full 4 hours and claim then? So that's a cool little product that we worked on. And there's some other stuff too, but I'll let you ask some questions about that if you have any.
Man, I mean, that's interesting. I did not know about the gamification part.
Yeah, it's cool. It makes a fun little game out of it, because if you wait for the full 4 hours and the token goes up 10%, and you could wind up making like 2x of money if you claimed 2 hours and you burn 50% of your tokens.
Yep. So like people have to kind of, it's like more of a guessing game what other people would play.
Yeah, to an extent, just for the claiming part, that's kind of like the only guessing game, and that's where a lot of it comes down to like, hey, is this a good narrative? Is this team good, right? What is the distribution like? How's the volume doing? Because if you like combine all of those metrics, then it could be a coin worth not claiming until the full 4 hours is up because you're bullish
Mm-hmm.
on this team long term.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. I mean, definitely suggest everyone to go take a look at Metadrop, right? Moving on to the next segment, right? I'm not sure how much of a macro guy you are, right? But I want to get a view on the market's outlook for the rest of the year, right? Having the Bitcoin halving coming really soon, and generally we're kind of in like a bull market right now. What are your thoughts, man?
So I drew up some meme chart on Bitcoin not too long ago, and just like from the complete zero IQ left curve approach, if you go back to 2012 and then you put the U.S. presidential elections and the halvening on a chart, and you do that from 2012 all the way to now, and they're always around the same, kind of within the same time, within either months of each other or like right around each other. It's usually like the start of a completely parabolic run for crypto. If you go back to 2012 to 2016, it went up like 18,000% or 1,800%, whatever the number was. Then 2016 to 2021, it went up like another 3,000% or whatever the number is. And then you have the 2020 to 2024, and then obviously Bitcoin went up from down up to 64, and then we're entering that kind of phase again where right after the halving and the presidential election, Bitcoin just kind of enters some parabolic phase. And I think that's a pretty good approach to like kind of push onto normies because one, nowadays with the way the world's going, normies don't really have a lot of time to one, do research and like two, invest. So if they hear something along the lines of that, where it's like pretty straightforward, it's a pretty brain dead narrative, and it's something that they can just take price action in history and attribute it to like future price action in history, which isn't always a guarantee, but it's enough to like sell sauce to the normies. Then that's pretty good. So that's kind of my left curve approach that it's gonna do well. And then obviously you have like the BTC ETF where you're seeing inflows. Like I think that the first day of Bitcoin ETF inflows, it beat the inflows of every other ETF ever combined at launch. So that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
impressive. And just talking to my parents' friends, they're always texting me. They're like, "Hey, Matt, I want to get into crypto, but I don't know how." And because my parents are always telling them into crypto and that stuff, so they're always texting me, "Hey, Matt, I don't know how to get into crypto." So I think Bitcoin ETFs are a good way for those texts to no longer come to my cell phone, where you don't really need to text your friend's son who's 27 and be like, "Hey, how do I download Coinbase and buy this? Hey, how do I buy Solana?" Like that stuff, where they can just like, call their broker, then buy Bitcoin spot ETFs. So I think there's definitely going to be a wave of fresh money coming in sooner or later. And like once Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, it's the same thing every cycle. I don't care what anybody says. This time's different. Like, no, this time's not different. It hasn't been different ever. Like, as soon as Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, the floodgates are going to open and people are going to pull in. And then price targets for me for macro, it's kind of hard. I mean, like everybody wants 100K Bitcoin, right? But if you like trading
Mm-hmm.
fibs, I think like the 0.618 is somewhere around like the 130 to 140,000 dollar range, and then like ETH, obviously ETH to 10K. But I think just looking at like the general crypto market cap as a whole is probably better than just like adjusting price targets. I think 10 to 20 trillion is definitely possible. I think what's crypto right now, like 2 trillion, 3 trillion, something like that. Let's see, actually.
Let's pull it up.
Let's pull it up. It's 1.8 trillion, yeah, which
Nice.
seems relatively small compared to like, Nvidia's going up like crazy. So, and it topped at what, 3 trillion last cycle? Yeah. So maybe, 10 trillion, somewhere in that 20 trillion range. It went up 300% from 2020 highs to the 20K highs in 2018 to the November 2021 highs. The total cap went from 762 billion to 3 trillion, right? So just assume 3x again, so somewhere in the 10 trillion range.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, I'm excited though, man. We might actually get this quote unquote super cycle. Many have whispered rumors of for years.
Yeah, let's get back to it. Up only season.
Yeah, man. It doesn't feel like it. Like, were you here in 2020?
No, I kind of joined late 2021, so I caught only like the last stretch. It was kind of the Pico top then.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. You missed all the fun. But
Yeah, man, I did.
vibes are significantly different than they were pre all-time high break in 2020. And back then it was all wag me vibes, we're all gonna make it. And now it's like nobody is excited anymore. And I don't really know why. It's like there's not a lot of euphoria on
Oh
the
yeah.
timeline. There's not a lot of caps locks in my friends group. Everyone's just kind of like content with what's happening. And so I don't really know why. And the funny thing about that is that everybody has so much more money than they did in the 2019/2020, like beginning of the bull run. Like all my friends are giga rich, like much richer. I have a lot more money. And you figure that with the amount of money you have now relative to where you were in 2019, 2020, and like the potential growth for crypto, people would be like batshit crazy over what's going to happen over the next 2 years because they're thinking, oh, if I 20x my portfolio, then I'm going to buy three private jets, move to Dubai, and then travel to the Maldives every single weekend. But there's like none of those vibes right now, and I don't really know why.
Man, I don't know. Like maybe we're not there yet. Like, are we? Maybe we're just at the slow up creep right now, and we're not going full like loud shouting whack me and all.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that slow grind. I also think it's because altcoins haven't really gone crazy. I mean, yeah, you've had like a few individual runners, but
Hmm.
it's not that crazy. You know, wake up, close your eyes, hit buy, then you make 100x in like, by the time you go to the kitchen and make a hot pocket and come back.
Yeah, I think for those, I think it's only within those who are within the crypto community who are that is kind of more aware of what's going on and like the price is moving. I think for those who are not in the crypto space, they are not so much aware of how much or how many coins are actually moving up in price, right? And how they're kind of doing so much better compared to the bear market. Like for myself, right, I did not even notice that ETH is significantly closer to 3K now than it was, I think, 1, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Right,
Yeah, it looks
I was like,
finally
oh
looks better,
wow,
man.
I did not know that ETH actually went up. Like I wasn't even tracking, right?
Yeah,
And
it's because it's been doing nothing.
exactly, right? And like I haven't really heard of friends around me also talking about it yet, right? And compared to in 2020 or 2021, the whole world knows about it, right? Everyone's talking about Bitcoin price, talking about Ethereum price, certain NFTs or like Dogecoin price, for example. I think we're not there yet, but hopefully soon, yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too. And like the difference is back in 2020, nobody had anything to do. Everybody was inside,
That is true.
stuck, yeah, stuck with COVID. So what were you doing? You were either playing video games or like hyper gambling your way to generational wealth on crypto. And like now, nobody has time anymore. Like I talk to all my normie friends, and they're either working two jobs, they have no savings, and they don't really have time to like focus on crypto. They always call me like 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, like, "Yo, what do I buy?" I'm like, "Dude, come home from work, do your laundry, and just spend 1 hour a day just researching crypto." And they just won't do it, and I don't know why.
It's too risky, man. We don't know if it's gonna be here to stay. We can't spend so much time on it. That's all
I
I
know.
hear.
And it's like these people who are working for like 60, $80,000 a year, and they're working 60 hours a week, and they're saving for houses, and houses are going up like crazy, interest rates are high. They don't have like, excess capital to just chuck like 2 3K into like some play, and if they burn it, then that's like 3 4 months of savings for them. That's why during the COVID era all those stimulus checks were super nice, because it was just free money and people were on unemployment, so they had really had no responsibilities.
Yeah, man. Bring back the free money.
Yeah, retail will come there. They will be here, and they will buy my bags and my bags specifically.
I hope so. I hope so for sure. And I think that's all the crypto-related questions I have, right? And I
Yeah.
want to get to know about yourself a bit more personally. So, could I get you to share with us your daily routine? Like, how does your day look like?
Yeah. So it's quite interesting, actually. I wake up every morning from 4 to 6 a.m., no matter what. It's just my body
Wow.
clock thing. It started happening in the bear market. I am on the computer from 4 to 6, or I'm in my bed on my phone. I'm checking prices, checking up with messages, checking up with group chats, either closing positions into like Asia hours or something like that. Then I usually go back to bed for another 2 3 hours. I wake up at 9. First thing I do is I grab a Monster Energy at the local convenience store, which I think is going to kill me before this bull market ends. Like my kidneys are rotting away internally, and I need to stop that habit. So I grab a Monster Energy. I come home. I put my bathrobe on. I put my slippers on. I sit at the computer, and the first thing I do is I check up on anything Metadrop related, like any biz dev conversations, partnerships, stuff like that. And then once I do that, then I usually check all of my bags, making sure everything is a-okay. Do I want to profit? Do it to take? Do I want to add? And then once I'm done with that, then I start looking for like new plays for the day. I see what's going on. I check my scanners. Is there anything firing off? Is there any like big hype launches coming today? Obviously, do some posts on Twitter before there, and then the rest of my day is like just keeping up with group chats, keeping up with work stuff, buying and selling coins. I'm not kidding. I'm in my bathrobe in my slippers, like 16 hours a day at the computer, 7 days a week, except for Saturday nights when I hang out with my girlfriend. No gym. I'm down like 50 pounds of muscle. I have a terrible hunchback right now. I'm skinny. I look disgusting. I have a grimy mustache. My hair's a mess, but that's okay. It's sacrifices we need to make. Like I think if I went to the gym, I'd probably have a clear mindset and I'd feel much better. But the thing is, if I go to the gym and I don't look at my phone for 2 hours, I'm gonna miss something, and I can't miss something. So And if I go to the gym, I'm going to be looking at my phone. So yeah, it's literally just that until like 6 o'clock rolls around. I barely even eat. I'm eating like maybe around 3 or 4 p.m. I'll make some ramen noodles or some pizza rolls or something like that, or Lunchables. 6 o'clock rolls around. I make some dinner. I usually have a cup of coffee, and then I'm back at the computer till like usually 12 or 1 o'clock. And then on the weekends, Saturday, Sundays, I hang out with my girlfriend. And that's my weekly and daily routine.
That's
Yeah,
dedication right there. But
yeah.
I'm not so sure if it's really healthy for you.
Oh, it's definitely not. Luckily, I have good genes, so it's like if I sit here and I eat like shit and the whole 9 yards, I don't gain weight. I literally lose weight. So I'm not gonna
Wow.
get fat. I'm just gonna look disgust. I'm just gonna look like I'm sick. But
High
that's all right. As long as I
metabolism.
make yeah, as long as I make $10 to $20 this bull run, I will look like a malnourished dog. It's okay.
And then you can spend more time on the gym and getting the health back.
Exactly. When I'm not in the trenches buying 50K market cap shitters, I can actually like go to the gym and better myself in those ways.
So is that your goal for this cycle to hit the 7 figs or like 8 figs
Well,
in
I
fact?
Yeah, I hit 7 figs last cycle. I
Mm-hmm.
started with $1,000, and I hit 7 figs. I hit like I think my Picto top net worth was around 7.5 million, and that was after BSC season. Like I made all my money on
Wow,
BSC. It was freaking
nice.
crazy. I gave a lot of it back. Don't get me wrong. And I think that's one thing that I need to do better on this cycle is actually cashing out money into the bank. My mistake was I cash out a bunch of stables into Coinbase as, hey, this is going to be my house money. This is going to be my future money. But instead of cashing those stables out into the bank, I just was putting those stables back into my MetaMask and then aping $250,000 into the art blocks top, aping a bunch of nonsense and like adding too much risk and too much stables into the crypto ecosystem too late into the cycle.
Man, I think that's something that I hear really often, right? Like, taking profits at the end of the cycle is something that many from previous cycle wish they had done more.
Yeah, it's like really easy to make money in crypto. It's like, I mean, at least for me, and I think a lot of people who are crypto native, but it is really damn hard to keep money, like crazy hard. And you asked me a question like, what is one like word of advice that I would give my younger self?
Yeah,
And it
one
would
piece of
be
advice.
and it would be earlier in the cycle, you want to be full risk on, like no stables, absolutely nothing, balls to the wall. And then you need to kind of look at the flow of liquidity and the flow of money and like what coins are pumping, like kind of the risk appetite for like the general crypto participant. And as that starts to like, as you start to move down the ladder from like the Bitcoin pump, then Bitcoin starts consolidating or chopping within like, a 2 month, 3 month range, similar to what we saw at like this 64K top. And then you start seeing like mid caps pump, and then you're getting like you're getting like $100 million market caps on like these random side chains or like chains that nobody's used. Like for example, like DeFi Kingdoms and Jewel, right? Nobody used Harmony One that went to like a billion. That was literally the top before like crypto went to shit. And when that starts to happen, instead of cashing out like new plays into ETH or into other risky plays, you want to start cashing out like into stables. Like right now, if I sell a position, I'm usually cashing it out to ETH. As time progresses, when I sell a position, I'll do like 50% ETH, then 50% USDC, then cash out 25% of that into the bank and keep 25% into crypto. So a lot of it is just, instead of being completely risk on all the time, you just really scaling back and make sure you're rotating those profits into actually stables and instead of other coins.
Got it, got it. Right, I think a lot of people right now we are rotating profits into either ETH or like some other alt plays. But definitely I think that's something for myself to learn as well, to rotate some of the plays into USDC or stables in general.
Yeah, and I think that I have literally right now I have $232 of stables to my name. That's all the stables I have. I am full risk on right now, and I think that's fine. Like I can endure a 30 to 40% like drawdown on my net worth because I think ultimately that's going to be a good buy, but I won't have funds to buy the dip. But hopefully I make some plays between there where I will have funds to buy the dip. But yeah, that's definitely something that I wish I did better the previous 2 cycles.
Awesome. Right, and let's wrap things up soon, right? What's your
Yeah.
greatest takeaway from being in crypto, right? You've been here for 7 years. What's your greatest lesson?
My greatest lesson, I would say My greatest lesson is to really just not give up, man. Like, seriously, don't give up. You will have your time. Like, I made a lot of money in 2021 and I cashed out a lot of stables. I saved my dad's business from going under. I gave my dad pretty much all my bull market cash. And then I didn't have a job, so I was had like crazy high bills. I was, cashing out of crypto every month to pay $10,000 credit card bills. So I went broke really, really fast. And then October 2022 rolls around and I had literally $750 crypto liquid to my name after being seven figs in 2021, right? So
Wow.
I was really, really, really broke, between helping my dad, paying off my car, having expensive bills, right? And like a whole bunch of other like personal stuff. I had $750 to my name, and I put $750 into a coin called WCI World Cup Inu during the soccer meta in 2022, and I ran $750 up to 42 ETH. So that was
Wow.
kind of the start, and then in January, Kanto happened. I don't know if or Kanto, however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I bridged $18 to Kanto, literally $18 to Kanto, and I ran $18 to $150,000 on Kanto. So
What the?
yeah, I bought schnoises for $1 each, the NFT, really at one Kanto per. It went to 1,800 Kanto per when Kanto was 80 cents each. So I made a lot a lot of money on those. Then I sold some of those off and I rotated within the ecosystem and I made a bunch of money on that as well. So and that kind of set me up. So it's like, dude, like no matter how down bad you are, like truthfully, never stop gambling.
Wow. Man, you need to send me your address. I need to copy trade that.
I have 200. I have 289 MetaMask wallets. It's gonna be a nightmare for you to copy trade.
Man, that's insane. Like, do you use all of them actively, or like do you move from like is that your total amount of addresses that you have in total?
Yeah, total. Not all. A lot of them are dead wallets, but a lot of them have just like dead old NFTs or dead bags that hopefully one day I'll check back one day and be like, hey, here's a dead bag that's up like 100x from bear market lows, and here's a nice little stimulus check.
Nice, nice. Right. I mean that's really insane story that you just shared there, and great learning point, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, and the last question would then be, could you give me three names as guest nominations for future guests to the podcast?
Yes, I'd say my first guess would be Top Tick. I don't know if you know who Toptic is, but he is easily one of the best traders I know. He's pretty much in every narrative early, like CryptoPunks in 2017, Tau OTC, Art Blocks during minting era. Like this guy is super smart. I had him on my podcast a few weeks ago. Super smart. He's pretty much in every narrative early, and it's always cool to pick his
Mm-hmm.
brain. He's super knowledgeable on AI. They call him the crypto AI guy. So that'd be cool to talk to him about AI and stuff. And my second person, I would say, is Stoic Savage, Stowe. He's one of the best airdrop farmers in the space. He's hit literally every major airdrop for ample amounts of money. Somehow, if there's an airdrop, Stowe is getting an airdrop. I don't know how, but he's just getting it. So he's a super good guy, really knowledgeable, super smart as well. And then a third, which doesn't really have a huge Twitter presence. His name is No Face, OX Nose Face. I met him in one of my core groups called the Syndicate, and he's like a pretty small fish, but he's a really, really smart dude. He knows a lot on like how market making works and how like exchanges work and how kind of like the stuff that nobody really knows about. So when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like doing DD and like understanding how coins get listed and all that stuff, he's really, really knowledgeable in that stuff. So he'd be another great guest to have on. And I can send you all their Twitters after if you want to hit them up, or I can reach out to them for you.
That'd be great. Yeah, and I
Yeah, of
think
course.
that's really three really interesting picks you have, right? I'm not familiar with them, but sounds really interesting, and I would love to have them on in the future. And with that, I think we've come to the end of this episode, right? Thanks for taking the time and really loved all your sharing and how enthusiastic you were in all your stories, right? Thank you for that.
Yeah, Moose. Thank you for coming on. I always just love coming on. Not too serious of just good conversation flow. I like how he said "let loose with Moose." It didn't feel like I was in a professional interview on Wall Street. I absolutely loved it. Like the way you structure your podcast, and I look forward to listening to this back and cringing from the sound of my voice.
Nah, Right. Thanks so much, CoinGuru, for taking the time, right? And thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode. We will see you in the next episode. And don't forget to check out his Twitter page, which I will link in the bio down below.
Awesome, Moose. Have a great weekend, man. Thanks for having me on.
That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Before you go, do remember to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Comment down below what you liked about this episode, who you like me to interview next, or any topics that you want to learn more about. Until next time, this is Moose moving out.